Well, definitely not the way Kevin Gausman wanted to end this series for the Toronto Blue Jays, but a series win is still a series win. Easy schedule coming up. The Blue Jays need to take advantage.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwasco, Carter First too, as well on Instagram, or as well on our main one, I guess, at Locked On Jays, and Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube, you guys have been killing it with hitting the subscribe button lately. Keep that going. We want to see the more Jays fans in here, more perspectives, more takes from you guys in the comment section. So hit that subscribe button. It's free. It's super easy to do. It's one click. Give us a follow. Might as well, right? If you're coming back at all, hit that subscribe button. It does help us out. And yeah, leave us comments, thoughts, feelings about everything we talk about today down below. Obviously, we always want your guys' perspective. So we'll hopefully do another mailbag as well coming up eventually on an off day where we can get your guys' thoughts and opinions on the podcast. So let us know if you guys want us to talk about anything specific on here as well, because we do this 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. So we have plenty of time to talk about stuff that you guys really want to hear about if there's something in particular. But in saying that, the Toronto Blue Jays dropped 9-5 against the Cleveland Guardians, Cleveland Guardians. Arizona Diamondbacks, there we go. Holy smokes, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, or behind myself.
Not overly close on that one, I guess, but A for effort.
You know what?
Might be a little bit bold.
I was looking at the schedule, just going up and down it, looking at the past couple series, the ones coming up, and I just jumbled, I guess. Wow. Yikes. It is a Friday. My brain is on weekend mode already. It must be sniffing the beers I'm going to have this weekend. But in saying that, Carter, a lot to talk about. The team did not show up offensively. Kevin Gausman laid an absolute egg. The guy was horrendous, giving up a mountain of runs. And I don't know, just the fight back and the pushback from this offense, it didn't really come. I mean, they scored 5 runs, but it wasn't great in totality. Obviously, we'll talk about Alejandro Kirk, his 2 home run ball game later on. But I think, and obviously the series preview, because that's huge. It is a huge time in the schedule. We're going to go over the schedule for the upcoming little bit here, just because it is. The Toronto Blue Jays have an opportunity here to win some ball games and a lot of ball games. So they have to do that. We'll talk about that more coming up in the third segment, second segment, maybe a little bit as well. But Carter, Kevin Gausman, my man, it was just straight up horrendous. I can't lie about that at all. After a very solid May, the guy has been absolutely dookie in June.
Yeah, that's why I was a little bit worried about him a few episodes ago. It just doesn't really feel like the same Kevin Gausman that we did see in 2023, 2022, and before. It's a lot of it looks like commanding the fastball to me. And a lot of the time, a lot of teams now are kind of doing the Minnesota Twins approach that we saw them be very successful against Kevin Gausman previously, is that anytime there is a pitch low, whether it's a fastball or a splitter, it's starting around knee height, they're completely laying off of it. And with Kevin Gausman right now, it's kind of the same notion that we talk about sometimes with Bowden Francis and with a lot of these pitchers, is that when they miss, their misses aren't necessarily competitive. And that's what Kevin Gausman has been doing a ton with that splitter. You do want it at the bottom of the zone. You rather have it in the dirt than necessarily hanging over right down the middle. But when you start the pitch pretty much at ankle height and then it ends up being in the dirt, hitters are not going to offer at that. If it's never a strike, hitters are too good in the MLB right now that they are going to swing at the dirt, at least consistently at that splitter. So when you're Kevin Gausman, you're really a 3-pitch pitcher, but you can say that you're really a 2-pitch pitcher because you have the slider, but the slider isn't the most effective pitch in the world. If you're struggling to command that fastball at the bottom of the zone, which I've been noticing with Kevin Gausman for the entire month of June, you're going to struggle getting hitters out. You're going to struggle getting that swing and miss that you are accustomed to. Kevin Gausman, another 3 walks in this appearance. It all starts with that primary pitch of fastball. His splitter plays off that fastball. If you're not locating your best pitch, if you're not locating that set-off pitch for your other pitches to completely play off of, eliminating that fastball as a pitch that hitters have to worry about makes it a whole lot easier and a whole lot more comfortable of an at-bat against Kevin Gausman. Again, it's simply just hasn't been good enough from a player that's supposed to be your team's ace. Kevin Gausman getting up there in age, and I'm not going to say that yet. He's 34 years old. I'm not sure, other than the command stuff, why it's happening. I'm not sure if it's a mechanical issue, but it has been something that I have been seeing consistently throughout the month of June.
Carter, this is a point of contention for me when it comes to pitchers or pitchers nowadays, I should say. The MLB has gone very north-south in terms of pitching break, pitching movement, fastball, splitters, changeups. And I mean, we're seeing more and more of that. And this is the problem with that setup. When it's working, it's fantastic. It is hard to hit. But if things go wrong for a little stretch of time, you're going to see guys get blown up because they don't have those great third, fourth, fifth pitches that then guys can go to, either a curveball, a slider, a cutter, some pitches like that, where now, you do bring in the east-west action. And Kevin Gausman, this hurts him because when his fastball or splitter aren't working, it is very hard to then get guys moving east-west. And if that splitter is starting low and staying low, a pitch isn't going to come. You're not throwing a riser, so it's not coming back into the zone at all. You are sometimes, right, if you're throwing a slider and it's very outside, it can catch, the back end of the strike zone. If it is a curveball and you start it too high, you might get the drop down to the bottom of the zone. There are other pitches that can work that can still catch the zone even when they don't look like strikes. But splitters aren't like that. Changeups aren't like that. If they start too low, it's gone. And that's one problem I have with the splitter fastball combination is that, yes, when it is great and it is working and it is on and you're firing on all cylinders, it is tough to stop. But man, you have a couple bad days and you're going to feel the misses every single time. And so that is not just a Kevin Gausman issue. That is a baseball issue right now of going more north-south. And I don't see a solution coming to this in the near future for the entirety of the league because you're starting to see a lot of pitchers go to this splitter fastball combination. And I think you're going to see some guys who are your aces on the team, and if this is their mix, they're going to have weeks or months where they aren't the stats aren't showing you that they're good pitchers because it's the type of game that they're playing. And I think this is exactly what Kevin Gausman has been doing. And Carter, I want to read sort of just off his June month so far. Obviously, he's probably still going to get 2 more starts in June, but so far he's 0-2 on the in June. He's got a 7.65 ERA. With 20 innings pitched, and Carter, he's given up 4 long balls, 12 walks. He only has 23 strikeouts, which isn't horrible.
But he has 12 walks. How many? You said 20 innings?
Yeah.
That's not going to play at all.
No. And that's going back to exactly what you said, right? Is the fact that when you're laying off the splitter and you're leaving that down in the dirt and then you can't locate a fastball, again, it's fine if you can locate the fastball down low in the zone on the black, because then that's how pitch tunneling. It's not rocket science. If you're throwing the splitter down to starting low, they're going to have to lay off it because they know it's going to be a ball. But if you start using the fastball down low in the zone, that's called pitch tunneling. It's not hard. That is the exactly what it is. So no, 12 walks, 100% just not going to play. He's got a whip of 175. This is just not the Kevin Gausman that you need to see whatsoever. Not the Kevin Gausman that you want to see. And maybe, again, I think the last time we called out Kevin Gausman, he ended up going and playing really well for the next bunch of starts. So hopefully I'm here doing that again because it has been horrific to watch. And I hate to say that because I love Kevin Gausman. He's probably one of my favorite players in the Toronto Blue Jays. But when you're playing bad, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat things for you. It's not been good.
Well, and that's been the issue with Kevin Gausman that we have seen this year is that it's okay to be a 2-pitch pitcher, but as we saw with Jordan Romano, as soon as you don't have one of those pitches on, the outing gets a whole lot more rough if you only have those 2 pitches. That's why, just a baseball enjoyer. If we're going to have pitchers again, if you really can nitpick at this, because sometimes like you just have the talent. If they're talented, they're going to be able to get outs. But if you could really pick it out, you want your pitchers to have at least 3. Because again, if you don't have your fastball, if you don't have your splitter, you don't have the slider, whatever you do end up relying on, and one of those pitches isn't necessarily working for you, at least you do have 2 other pitches at your disposal that you can throw and use effectively. When we look at Kevin Gausman, if he doesn't have that fastball, if he doesn't have that splitter, didn't necessarily have the fastball in this outing, the slider is not a very good pitch. 5% K rate on that pitch. A slugging of 684 off of the slider, a -1 run value. It just doesn't break a whole lot. Seems to hang a little bit as well. Again, he's not throwing them a ton, probably under 10% of the time. I think he threw 5 in the game against the Diamondbacks. So at this point, the slider, it's nice to kind of catch hitters off guard, but I feel like he's been hanging it a little bit as well. It's been catching a ton of the plate. I would like him to use that pitch against lefties, especially to crowd him inside and low, but it doesn't really seem like he's too confident with that slider as a pitch. So with Kevin Gausman, a 4.6 ERA, and ERA is not everything, but a 4.6 ERA from a guy that's supposed to be your ace isn't necessarily great. And one thing I kind of did want to jump into is just looking at the ace situation, not only for the Toronto Blue Jays, but just in the AL in total. Kevin Gausman is 34 years old in the 4th year of his contract, has 1 more year after this. But you look around the AL, just about at aces, and again, we're talking about playoff scenarios because this team is 6 games over 500. They've been playing a pretty good brand of baseball. When I look around the AL, and kind of look at some of the teams and their aces, I'm not really taking Kevin Gausman over a ton of players. Just looking even in our own division. Max Fried of the Yankees, I'm taking him a million times out of a million, especially though he's pitching this year. Garrett Crochet, got to take him in as well. I'm even taking Drew Rasmussen from the Rays. I'm taking McClanahan probably when he comes back. So there's some uncertainty there. Zach Eflin from the Orioles, you got to take Kevin Gausman there. But like you go down kind of look at some other teams in the AL, like Detroit, you're taking Skubal. Obviously, I don't think that's really a debate whatsoever. You're taking Skubal over majority of pitchers in the in Major League Baseball. You look at like the Astros, Framber Valdez, I'm probably taking him. You look at the Mariners, Logan Gilbert, I'm probably taking him. I have a list here of teams that I would not take another pitcher over Kevin Gausman. Take Kevin Gausman over these pitchers. I look at Oakland, I'm taking him over Severino, obviously. The Angels, Yusei Kikuchi, that one's actually a little bit of a closer one than I would like to admit. I'm still taking Gausman here, but Kikuchi has had a decently effective season. The White Sox, not much to say there. Obviously taking Gausman. Tanner Bybee from the Guardians, I would roll with Gausman over that. And then you got, again, like I said, Zach Eflin with the Orioles, taking Gausman over that. But that's only 5 starters in the AL that I'm taking Kevin Gausman over. I don't know if it's Kevin Gausman's fault. I don't know if it's the Toronto Blue Jays' fault for kind of wasting some of his prime years, but my confidence is probably at one of the lowest points that it has ever been with Kevin Gausman, and my confidence that he will be able to go out on the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays, kind of throw that 6-7 innings of appearance that we've been accustomed to, getting that swing and miss. We haven't really seen it consistently, and it makes me a little bit nervous when he is on the mound, especially against a prolific offense like the Diamondbacks have.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's a good thing that this team got the first 2 games, and we can still sit here and be happy that it was a series win. But I think another concerning bit for me here is looking at Kevin Gausman's heat maps, Carter, and because that's something I love to do. I love to see where pitchers are utilizing their pitches and throwing it consistently. And I don't know, maybe that's a little bit baseball nerd of me, because it tells you a story, but it doesn't paint the whole picture, right? Because I look at his heat maps and I think if I'm looking at a pitcher that is a consistently fastball splitter type of guy, the heat maps to me look good. That's where you'd want the pitches. It just isn't playing off it correctly. So again, when you look at all these stats and you look at all this stuff that is available, it doesn't tell the whole story. You got to use your own eye test and see what some problems are. And again, if you're not watching games consistently, that's totally fine. And that's why we're a little bit here for you guys, because a lot of people would just go on to Baseball Savant or Fangraphs or whatever site you want to use, and then base a Twitter take off of a statistic they're seeing. Well, that's again, in this, I don't know. That's not how baseball works. You can't just look at one statistic or one page and think, wow, this is the reason. Well, no, not necessarily, because if you're not watching the games, you don't necessarily see everything. So we hope that you guys utilize us for that a little bit. And, we take away some things from pretty much every single game, because that's, we're sit here in our basement, Carter, and we watch every single game like complete lunatics. But it's been easier to do that with how this Toronto Blue Jays team has played so far this season. But Carter, a lot more to get into. Again, I want to talk a little bit about the offense. And then, of course, we have to talk about the schedule because it's getting to that point in the season where this should be the time the Toronto Blue Jays really take advantage of this easier schedule. You need to gain as many wins as possible right now. We'll talk about all that and more coming up after this break.
Today's episode is sponsored by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you, unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. Personally, I've been loving the no shells variety. I have been hammering the lightly salted, whether I'm at work, whether I'm on the golf course, whether I'm watching a Toronto Blue Jays game, whether I'm out on a night whether I'm on a night out on the town with the boys. Doesn't necessarily matter what I'm doing. Wonderful Pistachios, very convenient snack. Does not get your hands dirty either, so you can just quickly fire some into you in a pinch, which I absolutely love to see, especially on the golf course. The hands aren't the cleanest they've ever been, so I can just open the package, dump them right into my mouth, and it's the perfect grab and go snack. I encourage you guys to try. They have a bunch of different flavors. I usually go with the lightly salted, but they have so many different ones. I encourage you guys to look over there and get your satiating and fulfilling snack today. Right now, you can get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. You can visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That is wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
So, Carter, just continuing on here, we do obviously want to get into the offense, but just any final thoughts, feelings on Kevin Gausman, the rest of the bullpen. I mean, Paxton Schultz goes out today. Doesn't have his best day, but I think from what we've seen of him all year, it hasn't been horrible. And I think, again, that spot is one that's going to be taken eventually, and he'll be sent down. But I don't think it's been a horrible year for Paxton Schultz. I think that's a guy that came in and sort of, again, did a job in situations where we needed him to sort of do something. And this game was pretty much over by the time that he came in anyway.
Yeah, so that's why I was going to give them a pass a little bit in this game. Like, you're down 7-1. The feeling in the Rogers Center is that the game's pretty much over. He gives up 2 earned runs. Like, you're not expecting Paxton Schultz to go out there and put up zeros every single time. In that game, it's more so about eating innings, getting the Blue Jays out of that game, especially going into the White Sox series, where you want to have a fairly rested bullpen, because that's a series that you do want to take advantage of. So, yeah, not going to worry about Paxton Schultz and his performance too much. Again, this is the 8th reliever that you're probably relying on. It's probably your lowest leverage guy, and that's why you're throwing him in a 7-1 game. So I'm okay with what he did out there. But with Kevin Gausman going back to like kind of how they did the damage in this game, a lot of the time it was just fastballs over the middle. Like when Suarez did a home run, that's fastball over the middle. Hits a 2-run double to make it 4-1. That's a fastball. Kind of a little bit on the outside part of the plate, but still caught a lot of the plate. When you're not commanding your pitches, you are going to get beat, and that's kind of what has been happening to Kevin Gausman. So hopefully he can get better. Hopefully he can bounce back. I believe his next start is going to be made against the Cleveland Guardians, so that will be an opportunity to bounce back against the lineup that isn't necessarily the greatest lineup out there, but definitely do have some thumpers in there. When you have Jose Ramirez in a lineup, it's never going to be the easiest day of all time. But really offensively for me, like Jonathan Colossi, that's a cool home run. Nice to see him kind of launching one, especially after getting hit in the knee. Doesn't look like it's bothering him too much. Other than that, it's the Alejandro Kirk show. I don't really want to talk about anyone else, because Vladdy has a single and RBI in the game. Great. But Alejandro Kirk, 2 home run performance, and yeah, not really much to show for it, unfortunately. Again, the game just felt like it was pretty much dead after Kevin Gausman leaves the game, and it's 7-1. But credit to Alejandro Kirk snapping an 0 for 18. Didn't really have a great Philly series. Didn't look great in the first couple at-bats of the Diamondbacks series, but does storm back and hopefully can stay hot against the Chicago White Sox team that you hope to take advantage of. We'll obviously go over that a little bit more, but that's kind of what we're hoping to see from Alejandro Kirk and the offense when they take on the White Sox.
Yeah, and obviously, Kirky was having a down spell. You touched on it, and but I think in totality, when you look at Alejandro Kirk's season and what he's been able to accomplish this year, I think you're more than thrilled of what he's done so far. You just hope he can stay somewhat consistent. We don't need 2 home runs from him every single game. Obviously, that's just not going to happen. But just the consistency and not as many peaks and valleys, I think, is what you're hoping to see from Alejandro Kirk moving forward. But in saying that, Carter, I do want to touch a little bit also on the schedule. I'm going to read off some of the series coming up sort of here before the All-Star break. And just tell me your thoughts and feelings on this. Obviously, we'll get more, into the White Sox series specifically in the third segment. But it's the White Sox for 3, the Guardians for 3, the Red Sox for 3, the Yankees for 4, the Angels for 3, the White Sox again, and then I think it is to close things out will be the Athletics before the All-Star break happening on I believe it starts on the 14th is when the little bit of the break starts. That will be July 14th. I think so anyway, because I think there's a 5-day break in between games, 13th, and then their next game's not till the 18th against the Giants. But in saying that, Carter, that stretch of games, the importance of picking up a bunch of wins against teams that I think for the most part here might be the lowest, the easiest part of the schedule. Again, it's baseball. That's sometimes never the case. But if you're just looking at it from a scheduling perspective, probably their easiest point of the season here.
Yeah, I don't even think that's a debate whatsoever. Like, you got the Chicago White Sox, who are not playing a great brand of baseball. Started out the season okay. I'm not going to say they started out hot, but they have been on an absolute slump these last month, to be completely honest. They're 29 games below 500. You got to take advantage of that series. You go to the Cleveland Guardians, they're 1 game above 500. They don't really have that. Again, when we're talking about aces in the first segment, they don't really have that ace that's going to go out there and win you a baseball game. Like, you got Tanner Bybee. He's not terrible. Like, definitely not a bad pitcher, but not necessarily like overly scared of him. That Yankee series is going to be big, but they haven't really been playing their best brand of baseball either. They just lost series 3 or 4 to the Los Angeles Angels. That's a little bit far away. The Red Sox, again, you lose Devers. Or how scared are you now compared to how scared you were, or how scared you were before when they did have Rafael Devers in this lineup? Then you got the Angels. I'm not scared of the Angels. I don't care what they did against the New York Yankees. Then obviously you said the Athletics. Like, it's a pretty soft schedule. And when you go down the list, like, these teams are a ton of games below 500. So we compare it to that 10-game stretch that they just had. They're playing pretty much everyone that is about 500 or above. You got to at least take 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. You probably have to go 5 out of 6 in that stretch when you have 2 series against them. I'll say leniently 2 out of 3 against the Athletics. You got to take 2 out of 3 against the Angels. A 3 out of 4 against the Yankees would be huge. If you lose to the Guardians, not the end of the world. I think if you're going to lose a series in the 7-game stretch, the Guardians one wouldn't be the worst one. And then you got to beat the Red Sox just because screw the Red Sox. You don't want to drop games against your own division. But it's a stretch that you got to take advantage of and to put them in a very good spot if they can play this stretch and win the majority of these series, maybe arise out of this 10, 11 games above 500, especially with how soft of a schedule this really is in these next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, and you know what? Obviously, I mean, it is still early to be standings watching, but with the Blue Jays sort of in hot pursuit here, now 3 games back of the Yankees as they did pick up a win last night, 7-3. 1 game back of the Rays, or I guess it's a half game back of the Rays technically. And Carter, I guess, I don't know. This is just a point that a team could take advantage of a struggling AL in total, not just the AL East, but the AL in total. I mean, yes, the Tigers are, on absolutely cruise control right now, it seems like, but the Houston Astros tied with the Yanks right now with 43 victories. I don't know. I think as a Blue Jays fan right now, you're thinking if this team is going to do anything, right now would be the time to turn on the heat, turn up the gas. Let's go. And what is it? Lights up, let's go, or whatever. That's what this team needs right now because, yeah, it is an easy schedule, and it's going to get to a point after the All-Star break where this team really starts to dial in of what they're going to do and making a decision on trades. And is this the season to go for it? And again, we have our own thoughts and feelings on that. And, what should they do? What shouldn't they do? We're going to probably have another big episode on that coming up. I think Skylar Peters is chomping at the bit to get on here to talk about some trades and what this team should do. And, he's always got some ideas and some hotter takes, to say the least. So we'll have him back to talk that in the upcoming time here. But Carter, anything else on the schedule that you want to get off your chest before we do really dial into this White Sox series and see what the Toronto Blue Jays will be facing?
Yeah, I just want to put a number on it for this 22-game stretch. They have 22 games between now and the All-Star break. What is the record that you're looking for from the Toronto Blue Jays? What spot do you want them to be going into this All-Star break, this trade deadline? Because this stretch could be massive for not even the Jays buying or selling at the trade deadline, but how aggressive they are at this trade deadline. Maybe if they go on, if they're only around 500, maybe they only add a fourth starter. Maybe they add someone to the bullpen. But if they go on a massive stretch here, like maybe they go 14-8, they go 15-7, something crazy like that, and they are maybe at first even in the AL East, they could go out and be insanely aggressive and acquire an ace caliber pitcher. They could go out and acquire a power bat, Taylor Ward. His name has been floating around a little bit here. Michael Harris from the Braves, depending on, again, where they go. That name's been floating around as well. Those are going to be massive transactions. You're not going to be able to give up nothing to get those guys. You're going to have to give up some of the prospects that this Blue Jays team has acquired over the last few seasons. So it's a massive stretch for them. But for you, in those 22 games, what's like something that like the minimum that you'd be okay with? Like say it's maybe 500. I don't know what your number is. And then what's like your actual expectation? Like if the Blue Jays do this, we're going all in at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking 14. That was the number that I had in my head. I think that's what I don't want to say expecting, because I think it's tough at any point of the season. If you're talking about a 22 game set and you want to pick up 14 or 15, I think that, there's always going to be a game that you go into and you think they should win and they just don't. That's just baseball. But I would say 14 wins. That's what I want to see. I think the minimum I'm taking, I think it's pretty tight. I want 12, and anything less than that, I think for this point in the schedule, I think you look at as a little bit of a missed opportunity. I think this team needs at least 12.
Yeah, if you get 12 wins, that puts you 8 games above 500 at the All-Star break. Not the worst scenario to be in, but when you've just kind of put yourself in a good spot, going a bunch of games over 500 against that stretch that you just had. Now you have the White Sox, you have the Athletics, you have the White Sox twice, actually. Then you got the Angels in there, you got the Guardians, Red Sox. Not bad teams, but definitely not teams that are going to blow your doors off. I think an absolute minimum would be 12 games, especially the way you have been playing this last little bit. I want 13 to 14. I think 15, you're kind of reaching a little bit too far. That would be unbelievable. You go 15-7 in this stretch. Like you are a ton of games over 500. You are at that point, you'd be 14 games over 500. That's first in the AL East. I'll say right now, if you go over that stretch, because then that's like you pretty much won a series against the Yankees. If you're only losing 7 games, you probably beat the Red Sox there as well. So if they can get 13 wins, I would be very happy with 13-9 over this stretch. That puts you 10 games over 500 at the All-Star break. I think this team would be aggressive at the trade deadline, and they would go in and buy aggressively, whether that is going all in on a starting pitcher or maybe getting one more power bat. We'll have to see how things trend with Varsho and Santander. That has a lot to do with it as well. Some of the injuries, some of the performances we will be seeing from some of the players coming back. But it's a fun time to be a Blue Jays fan, and it's a fun time to have a stretch like this because the offense is kind of firing. The bullpen's been very good. You do have some question marks with the starting pitching, but hey, Max Scherzer made a rehab appearance that has said that there has been some thumb soreness, but he's supposed to be on track to start against the Cleveland Guardians in the following series against the Chicago White Sox. So there's a lot to be excited about in Toronto Blue Jays land. Hopefully they can take advantage and kind of keep this momentum going and really make the fans get all in on this baseball team. And let's get, another playoff appearance that we haven't really seen in a couple of years here.
Yeah, Carter. And you know what? Maybe we keep track of that over the next little bit here in this 22 game set. Let's keep a little tally in our heads. What's this team going? Because I think at the end of this, it will show the direction of this team for sure. In saying that, we got a series to cover and preview. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Blue Jays versus the White Sox over the weekend when we return. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. Obviously, with the MLB season underway, that's where I spend my time betting on FanDuel, is on the MLB, because I don't know basketball that much. I'm not going to say I tune in for the odd game, but that's about it. And so MLB, that's where I live. That's where I want to see. And you know what? I've been doing well. The bonus bets that FanDuel is offering, that is the key point here. The MLB season heating up. Every game, clutch hits, standout pitching, and unforgettable moments, walk-off home runs, no hitters in the making. There's no shortage of drama on the diamond. So get into FanDuel. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, Carter, as we continue on here, White Sox, Blue Jays series preview. Again, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but obviously a series the Blue Jays need to capitalize on. And just as I take a look sort of throughout the schedule here and scheduled pitchers, it will be Martin versus Turnbull, game 1, game 2 on Saturday, Cervalli versus Berrios, and game 3, it will be Chris Bassitt. The White Sox don't have a pitcher designated for this game, but I mean, it's the White Sox. Who knows? They could throw out some random guy from Double-A for all I know, who they're pitching. So, but again, you can't take a team too lightly. This is one of those series that, you know, maybe the Blue Jays think, oh, it'll be a cakewalk and we'll go in there and take all 3, and then you get punched in the mouth, and then it's how you respond to getting punched in the mouth. So, you know, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So there you go. But Carter, I don't know, what are you expecting here? Do you think that the boys are going to show up in time, or do you think this is going to be one of those situations where they think this is going to be a cakewalk?
I mean, it should be a cakewalk. You're playing the Chicago White Sox. This is not a good baseball team. Like, looking at this lineup, like Mike Tauchman might be their best hitter at the top of their lineup. Like, he's not having a horrible year, but is Mike Tauchman a name that you're like, oh my God, Mike Tauchman's coming up to the plate? I'm really worried here. Like, Andrew Benintendi's hitting 3. Luis Robert Jr. is having a bad season. Really has kind of just fallen off. Kyle Teal would be, I guess, a guy that you could be kind of interested in, top prospect that they do have here. But like Aaron Savali's pitching in this game, like he got traded from the Brewers to the White Sox pretty much as punishment because he didn't want to pitch it out of the bullpen. Not a series that I'm worried about really whatsoever. You shouldn't be worried about, but this is a series that you look back at. If you don't take 2 out of 3 at minimum here, you're like, oh no, this is where things might have went wrong against the Chicago White Sox team that, to be honest, is just bad. They're just simply not a good baseball team, unfortunately. So you got to take advantage here. I think this is a home series as well. You got the Chicago White Sox later on in the schedule. I think you got to go 5-6 against this baseball team. I think it's a lot easier to sweep a game and a series at home than it necessarily is on the road. The Toronto Blue Jays have been a very good home baseball team. So I want to sweep here. I think you got to continue on the momentum. You got to take advantage. Go 5-1 on this homestand. That would be a very good spot for the Toronto Blue Jays to be in, and a very good start to, again, a schedule that isn't necessarily the hardest schedule that you have, maybe the softest part of the schedule that you're going to have this entire season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's what has to happen here. And, you know, as I was doing the calculations in my head on, you know, what I want to see this team go, it was 5-6, banking on a 5-6 record against the White Sox. And, you know, that was also counting 2 of 3 against the Red Sox, 2 of 3 against the Yankees, or 2 of 4 against.
Maybe, yeah. If they split the series against the Yankees, I want a series win there. I think that's going to be one. That's a series I have circled on my calendar. Canada Day weekend at the Rogers Center. You got the New York Yankees. That's going to be a big series, and one that we might look back at if we're looking at an AL East race down the line.
Yeah, probably. Yep. And just in my head, the calculation was 2 of 4, just being that, you know, it is the Yankees. And if I'm trying to be somewhat realistic, but again,
we'll get lucky and miss Max Fried. How awesome would that be with some of the luck the Toronto Blue Jays have gotten, you know, down the stretch? They missed Michael King, they missed Zach Wheeler that first time around. We missed Max Fried. Give me 3 out of 4 in that series.
I like that take. I can't see that happening in a 4-game set. You think
have to get pretty lucky.
Yankees, Blue Jays. I don't know if I don't know if you can afford to not pitch Frieder there, but again, whatever. We'll see what happens. Carter, in saying that, we want to get the people's takes. It's a Friday episode. Leave us your takes down below. We won't have a podcast the next 2 days, so make sure you guys do tune in. We'll be back Monday with a lot more, obviously, the fallout of this series, what's going to happen. We'll have it all covered here as well. We're going to really have to start. Yeah, I think it's the time. We're going to have to start talking about, is this team ready and willing to make trades to go all in? Or is this going to be a little bit of a disappointing trade deadline when this does come up? I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, and we're going to have it over the next little bit here. Again, we always appreciate all the support, all the likes, the comments, the subscribers, the followers on the Instagram and the TikTok and Twitter page, and just, you know, sort of building a community here of Toronto Blue Jays fans. It really has been a blast of a year and a half, Carter. You know, as much of the team sucked last year, and that was hard to, you know, fathom. I think having the podcast at least made it a lot more fun to be able to chat with the people, respond to comments and start those conversations at least.
Oh, absolutely. My favorite part about this podcast, I talk about it all the time, is just seeing the perspectives from people, whether they're watching every single game, whether they're chiming in once a week, whether they're just, coming to hate on the podcast. I don't really care what it is. I do like seeing that perspectives and just seeing how people are viewing this baseball team. There's one more thing I quickly want to go into before we do take off for the weekend, and it's Spencer Turnbull making his first start for the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah. What is your just expectation against the Chicago White Sox? What is a good start in your book for Spencer Turnbull making his first actual start as a starting pitcher for the Jays?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because at first I'd say I think you're hoping to get 4 out of him.
And how many pitches do you think he's going to throw as well? I want to phrase that too.
I think I don't know. I can't see him pushing 80. I think 80-ish is probably going to be the mark. I don't even know if you're going to get that out of him. I think if he goes 4, I think you're okay with that. You're hoping that he could flip things to the bullpen and have a good outing, especially with Berrios and Bassitt up after that. So, I don't know. I'm hoping for 4 innings. Maybe he does go 80 pitches, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he goes 5 innings and 80. Maybe he goes, 4 and 75. Maybe he goes 4 and 70. I don't know, but I'm hoping if he can give us, 2-3 run baseball somehow, and just don't walk guys, challenge guys, especially in a White Sox series. Go after guys. Don't be scared to pitch. Hopefully this team's offense can come alive and give you a little bit of backup. So I think that's the biggest thing for Turnbull in a first start here is don't be afraid to go after guys. And obviously I think that actually the guys want to know already on the season because he did pick up a victory. It'll be interesting for sure to see what he brings to the table.
Yeah, for me, I had the pitch count around 70 to 75 for Turnbull. If he throws anywhere in there, I'm going to be happy with it. I just want him to work into the 5th inning. That's kind of my goal here for Turnbull, whether it's 4 1/3, 4 2/3, with that 70 to 75 pitch range. If he can work somewhere in there, especially with Kevin Gausman, again, not a great day, but you had Paxton Schultz come in. You didn't use a ton of your bullpen arms. Yeah. So you should have a pretty fresh bullpen. So if you can get, 4 1/3, 4 2/3 from Spencer Turnbull, I'm giving him 3 earned runs to work with. You can go 4 1/3 and 3 earned runs. That gives this Toronto Blue Jays team a chance to win, especially against the Chicago White Sox team that does not have good pitching. Spencer Turnbull, again, with Max Scherzer being out, the uncertainty there, supposed to be back for Guardian Series, but how likely is that? How much can you really rely on that? If Spencer Turnbull has a decent day here, might not be the worst idea in the short term, at least to keep us floating until the trade deadline and hopefully when the Toronto Blue Jays do acquire some depth in that starting pitching. We just want to say thank you guys for watching. Likes, comments, support recently has been much appreciated. It has not been nice to kind of get back to the regularly scheduled programming. Have a little bit more consistency in the podcast, the times. Just, we know exactly when we're recording them. And just obviously if, we're a little bit behind schedule, I can just yell across the hallway instead of, blowing up some of the boys' phones to make sure they're coming on the podcast. So it's nice to be back, and it's nice to see the Toronto Blue Jays continuing to win series and playing a good brand of baseball. I just wanted to say thank you guys for watching. Have a great weekend, and we will see you guys on Monday.